So David, we'll have to get together. I'd like to retain you to create a new act called the Let's Get Rail Act, because that's a big obstruction with the Jones Act for certain. Oh, why is that not showing? There you go.
All right, thank you. Okay, wanted to start out with kind of the rail industry overview. I don't know what the audience is like, if how much experience people have with rail and shipping by rail. So thought I'd start out with kind of a basic overview of what the rail industry looks like, just to kind of provide that basic understanding. So there are 6 major Class 1 carriers in the United States, and including 2 Canadian carriers. So there is the Canadian National, Canadian Pacific. They both have operations in the United States as well. And then you have 2 Eastern Class 1 carriers, and then 2 Western Class 1 carriers, the Western 2/3 of the United States. There's generally 3 major classifications of service products that we offer. The first being manifest service or single carload service that works through kind of a spoke and hub system, kind of like the airports. You go through different terminals and get on different trains to get to your ultimate destination. There's also what we call bulk service, which generally customers will ship anywhere between 75 and 110 rail cars, load them at a single origin, they'll go to a single destination. And then we also have what we call a premium service, which is generally reserved for the intermodal and automobile shippers. It's a faster kind of truck-like service for that. We haul very different, all kinds of commodities. We'll kind of get into it here a little bit later, but we handle everything from consumer goods, TVs, to chemicals, and tank cars, to coal and automobiles and intermodal service. So, apologize for having this as 2015 information. We have our earnings announcement here next week, so we need to stick to the 2015 information at this point. In 2015, we had just over $20 billion of freight revenue. Our route consists of over 32,000 miles over the 23 states in the western United States. So our network looks like generally west of the Mississippi River, Chicago, Memphis, down to New Orleans, and serves most of the major ports and gateways throughout the western United States. So you might not think of a U.S. railroad as an international company, but 30 to 40% of all of our freight originates or terminates outside of the United States. So we link every major West Coast and Gulf Coast port, which was critical last few years with the increases in grain exports due to changing diets in the United States and also increasing worldwide trade. We also connect with Canada's rail systems, as mentioned earlier, and the only railroad serving all 6 major gateways to Chicago. We interchange traffic with the other Class 1 carriers and Eastern railroads through our gateways to Chicago, St. Louis, Memphis, and New Orleans. So it's really neat to kind of work for a railroad that hauls so many different things. Our slogan is that we're building America, and it really is true. We handle various different products that you might not even think about. Think about this for a minute. When you woke up this morning and turned on the lights, electricity that was used, it was probably hauled to coal by Union Pacific or wind turbines that we moved out to the various areas throughout the United States. Before you could use your computer or television this morning, I got the news, it probably moved on one of our trains through intermodal service. The automobile you rode here today or drove here or flew in was hauled by Union Pacific, and the parts, the plastics, the tires, everything that goes into an automobile was most likely hauled by Union Pacific or another railroad. So I want to talk really quickly about our volumes throughout the last decade. You can see the recession in 2009 was kind of the bottom level of our carloads. We measure car loadings on a 7-day basis to take out the variability of working days throughout the week. So the car loadings, 7-day car loadings are on the left there to give you kind of some perspective. 2006 and 2014 were kind of our high water marks, getting up into the 190, almost 200,000 carloads on a 7-day basis. And right now, we're kind of right in that middle. We've had some coal shipments that have declined, basically due to natural gas prices being much more competitive than coal has been over the past several years. We've also had a significant reduction in frac sand shipments, which is being used in the shale formations throughout the United States that we've seen. 2014 was kind of the high water mark for those shipments. We've also seen a lot of industry consolidation through intermodal. We had the Hanjin bankruptcy here earlier this year. It's had a major effect, significantly way too many vessels and ships in the industry right now, so that industry is kind of going through some consolidation, and some consumer spending has also had an impact on that. Agricultural product shipments have been up. It's been the lone bright spot here, up 4% for the year, mainly due to a very strong harvest with both corn and soybeans. And combine that with a strong harvest last year, you had a strong carryout, and that continued throughout 2016. We anticipate that to be continuing throughout the remainder of 2017 as well. Automobiles, vehicle sales are really an all-time high through mainly the first 3 quarters. The fourth quarter kind of pulled back a little bit, but we were pretty much flat year over year on autos. You kind of see that falling off a little bit. It seems like right now, if you're watching a lot of the commercials, you're seeing kind of some sales on automobiles and that type of stuff. We do kind of see that going forward here through 2017. So velocity is a key metric that we use to measure our service product from our customer standpoint. Since the mid-2000s, we've invested $40+ billion in our network to increase capacity and increase our ability to deliver a consistent product. So you can really see the velocity really ramping up from in 2009, and it's pretty much stayed there right now, and we believe that we can manage about 200,000 carloads at this same velocity, which is, like I mentioned, the key metric in our service product to our customers. These are the 5 critical resources we look at when we provide service to our customers. Employees, which would be the conductors, the engineers, the people that are actually operating the train. They take approximately 6 to 12 months to get those conductors trained and being able to operate trains. Locomotives, which is the power vehicle for pulling the trains, those take anywhere between 12 months to be able to build. There's 2 major manufacturers of locomotives, and so they take about 12 months in order to be able to get those new locomotives built. Freight cars, we do provide freight cars for our customers in certain industries. Some of the cars remain private, some of them are railroad owned, and so those take anywhere between 12 months to be able to purchase and get those supplied. Terminals would be these locations where we will build trains and depart and arrive trains and build new manifest trains. Those generally take anywhere between 18 and 36 months to be able to add new track capacity into those terminals. And lastly, track capacity, which is the actual track in between the terminals, the route miles that we're talking about. So there's various different lead times associated with each of these different kind of critical resources. So we are working very closely on macroeconomic trends, customer feedback, on different markets. As you've seen before, volumes do tend to fluctuate quite dramatically, as we've seen over the past decade. So talking strictly about our 2016 capital plan, we've adjusted to spending $3.6 billion. As you can see, $1.9 billion of that is just to replacement. So we will replace ties, rails, that type of infrastructure throughout our entire system throughout the entire year. Really kind of hardening that infrastructure. These assets last anywhere between 20 and 30 years, but we'll replace those on a continued cycle to make sure that we've got everything up to speed. It also includes almost $800 million in locomotives and other freight cars for our customers. Almost 10% of that capital is designed for capacity enhancement, both for adding double tracks, adding new sidings, also adding new lines to customer facilities, that type of stuff. And then, as you can see, 10% for positive train control, which is a unfounded mandate to be able to add a satellite-based technology for kind of a collision avoidance system throughout the network, which should be concluding here in the next couple of years. So when Paul and I were discussing the content of this presentation, we were talking about the enormous potential of biodiesel shipments with increased heating oil use in the Northeast, as he mentioned, and the increased inclusion throughout the United States, and the parallels for that growth compared to ethanol in the early 2000s, but also the recent crude growth that was occurring in both the Bakken shales and shale formations in Texas. This was really a good example, I think, of how the industry came together throughout the entire supply chain to be able to handle a significant increase in growth. As you can see, 2010, we were handling several thousand carloads, and by 2014, the industry was handling over 300,000 carloads on an annual basis, which is I can't think of another growth in industry that grew that fast, that quick. So I think the message I wanted to kind of deliver was that it can be done with significant coordination between all the parties. So here's kind of the supply chain parallels when I look through either crude oil or biodiesel. So you've got all these different parties that are involved. You got the producers, which are out there, and from the crude oil side, they're developing new wells. On the biodiesel side, you're obviously developing new plants, building new infrastructure. Then you've got the traders and distributors that are involved. They're investing in rail cars. They're investing in loading terminals. You've got the railroads who are investing in the tracks, the locomotives, the crews, be able to move your product from point A to point B. And then you've got the destination terminals, which can be a terminal which has an existing distribution network, or it can be a transloader, which can be someone out for lack of a better term, out in the middle of nowhere, transloading that product to a truck. And then finally, on the crude oil side, you've got the refiners, but on the biodiesel side, you've got the retail blenders, you've got the trucks, and you've got the fuel distribution sites, which are investing to be able to unload the rail cars and distribute it thereafter. So I want to take a quick look. Approximately 33% of biodiesel is transported via rail as compared to approximately 65% on ethanol. So there's a lot of room to be able to grow in the biodiesel network. And I really think kind of looking at it from a parallel of ethanol, we're really kind of where we're at in ethanol in the early 2000s. So I see a lot of parallels in biodiesel growth compared to ethanol. So you can see the majority of biodiesel is produced in PADD 2, which is essentially the Midwest, with the majority moving to PADD 3 and PADD 1. But although the PADD 5 is also growing quite substantial with the LCFS credits in California and the new program in Oregon as well. So kind of looking back to the parallels of ethanol, majority of ethanol moves in unit train quantities. As the market has matured, it's grown into being able to produce enough volume to consolidate from moving from one point to another point. But the ethanol industry really started out in manifest service as well. And manifest service is a very viable option. We view manifest service at Union Pacific as a kind of a competitive advantage because we have a significant amount of terminals to be able to handle volume in manifest service. So I think as the demand grows for biodiesel, I think unit trains are a definite option. But right now, I think we're in a good place with our manifest service. Here's a look at biodiesel on Union Pacific. It's a little bit contrary to what you just saw. The majority of our volume actually moves out to the West Coast, to PADD 5, with over half of our volume. Majority of the production is right in that Iowa, southern Minnesota, Kansas, Missouri area. You see essentially PADD 2, with several other facilities kind of scattered throughout the United States. But majority of our volume moves west, with 40% moving south to compete against the imports coming in from Argentina. And then you've got 10% moving east, so there's significant option to be able to help move some of that product out to the Northeast for the heating oil. So just some quick fast facts on biodiesel on Union Pacific. We have access to over 600 million gallons of production capacity, but we also receive shipments from plants representing another additional 600 million gallons of capacity. So facilities that are in the Northeast or in Canada, we have good connection to those railroads to be able to handle that volume, to get them into markets that they previously might not have thought of or been able to get to. We have key relationships with throughout the supply chain, from producers all the way to the blenders. We're happy to help facilitate new relationships that you might need if you're looking for a relationship with a blender or a distributor or a producer. We can help facilitate that. And as I mentioned before, Union Pacific, we view our manifest network as a competitive advantage. We have 14 network terminals, which would be kind of your major terminals spread throughout our network. We also have 31 regional terminals to be able to get your product to pretty much every nook and cranny throughout the United States, wherever you're looking to go to. As you can see, our biodiesel shipments have increased steadily since 2010 with a 36% CAGR. So we've been able to handle that growth. Now, it's not nearly the volume or amount of shipments that we've seen in ethanol or crude oil, but all of those different commodities started somewhere as well. So Union Pacific has access to over 100 plus transload facilities spread throughout the United States with capabilities to unload biodiesel essentially today. Even with the minimal existing transload facilities, new facilities can be established in a matter of months, really. If there is demand and the ability to transload, we can help facilitate that. Yeah, Union Pacific Distribution Services is a subsidiary of Union Pacific. It is designed to help provide customized solutions for customers and really to expand our network beyond what we can do strictly on the rails. And we'd be more than happy to talk to you further about your needs and how we can help develop a customized solution to get your biodiesel into a market that you previously have not been able to get to. So with that, I guess in summary, I just wanted to mention that we appreciate taking the time to listen to us today. We've been building America for over 150 years. I really feel like that's a good slogan to have, to kind of mention all the different products that we've got. And we're really looking forward to the next 150 years. And with that, I'll turn it over to the next presenter.